Hello and welcome to another edition of the Shankly Gates Podcast. I'm David Brindle. Tonight I'm joined by Kieran, Grayson and Paul Jones, who you can see next to me. I've realised I've mixed us up this week just to keep things interesting. I'm now on the left or right. And Kieran, you're taking centre stage, mate, so I hope you're happy about that. Don't let me down. We've just
mate, playing through the middle, don't mind that.
Straight through the middle, strong spine in the team. Letting us down on the flanks at me and Paul. But you know, that's the way these things work. Paul, how are you doing over there, mate, on my left?
I'm good, thank you, mate. Yeah, how are you?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, thank you. I'm all right. So we've got plenty to talk about tonight. Obviously, we're going to talk West Ham. We're going to get into a bit more detail about that. We're going to look ahead to the Atalanta game coming up on Tuesday night, and we're also going to talk a little bit of news, specifically Champions League news, and about the what else are we going to talk about? So some team selection stuff regarding the Atalanta game coming up, and also our hot topic of the week is quite a topical one. Is Mohamed Salah a diving cheat? We're gonna get into that. That was Paul's idea this week, and I think I quite like that one, Paul. It's gonna be interesting when we get to it a little bit later on. But we will start with West Ham. Let's take it chronologically then, Kieran. Let's start from the beginning, if you like. It wasn't the best of starts, was it?
No, mate, it certainly wasn't. West Ham are always going to come with a game plan, and they're going to try and sit in with that back five that they usually have. And didn't start too good. Obviously, going a goal down, the same against Sheffield United. We had another sloppy goal to give away. I mean, he's done it before, but the error from Joe Gomez this time, he's got to do a lot better. He's got to put that header anywhere else. But yeah, slow tempo. Obviously they get a goal in front, and the game as we're going through the first half, and wasn't worried, but I was just wondering when we were going to pick the pace up in the game. Obviously, we get the equalising goal from the penalty, which we'll speak about later. But for me, it's 100% a penalty. Masuaku clearly kicks him, and the big giveaway for me was as soon as he came, Salah gets kicked and goes down. There seems to be a pause. The referee seems to take an age, but the giveaway was Masuaku just turned to the referee, and he did that usual where you put your hands up like that. To me, if he just continues with the ball and goes up the wing, there's a chance the referee doesn't give it. But for me, it's clear contact on Salah, kicks him, and 1-1. Then go into a second half again, still a bit slow, but I think certainly the substitutions of Shankly and Jota coming on were certainly the turning point in the game. Because Jota, as he has done the last few games, he's looked so lively in that team. Just this new energy that's come in, and obviously we get a disallowed goal, but a few minutes later, Shankly wonderful ball through, and there he is to slot away. So yeah, again, not another perfect game by any stretch of the imagination, but at the end of the day, mate, it's 3 points on the board, and we're sitting back on top of the league again.
Absolutely, we're going to talk about that very shortly as well. Another 3 points on board, but Paul, what's going wrong with the starts of games? Obviously, that's couple of it's not even really just starts of games. There's a lot of moments in games where Liverpool just don't seem to be at the best. What do you think's going wrong?
I think there's probably quite a few factors, really. I think it's a combination of, concentration or lack of. At times, we do tend to switch off every now and again, but I don't know whether it's just the sheer amount of games, the sheer amount of changes that we're having to make in every game as we're going forward. We can't seem to get a settled lineup through injuries and obviously rotation due to the intense programme that's going to be this season. So I think that all plays a part. If you look at last season, it was always, if you look at the back four, it was always three, at least the same three of, your two fullbacks and Van Dijk and then potentially, one other of between Matip and Gomez. So you can get a bit of a settled back line there. If you look at this year, I think we've already used six centre-halves. We've only played 10 games, something like that, including cup competitions. So I think there is a combination of factors to be involved, but it's credit that we are still grinding out results, with all these sorts of handicaps thrown in our way.
Absolutely, and as I say, we're going to talk a bit more about that. Overcoming these hurdles and where Liverpool are at the moment. We're going to get onto that. Let's talk Jota's goal then, Paul. In fact, let's talk about the incident just before it, where it's ruled out, where he puts the ball in there, but it's ruled out. Let's talk about that one first. What did you make of that? Is that a foul?
Well, I think if it's anywhere else on the pitch, it's not a foul, but because the goalkeeper's involved, goalkeepers tend to get a lot more protection than an outfield player. I don't think there's any intention of Sadio Mane to even really challenge the goalkeeper. I think he's sort of pushed as he's sliding in to get the ball. And it was that much of a collision that the goalkeeper got up and attempted to save Diogo Jota's shot. So for me, I thought it was quite cheap. But having said that, when I watched it, as soon as I seen the goal, I said that will be disallowed, just because we know what VAR is like. It's finding problems where there are none. And the commentator on the channel that I listened to summed it up quite perfectly and said, prior to VAR, that wouldn't have even been looked at, obviously, and nobody would have questioned it. So, when commentators are saying that, that there's something not quite right.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you there. And as you say, as soon as you see the referee go over to the monitor, I think Carragher mentioned it. He just knew straight away. He just knew that was it. It was gonna be ruled off, because it's very rare that the referee goes over to the monitor and overturns it. Kieran, just quickly, mate, what did you make of the whole incident? Should that goal have stood?
Again, for me, I think Paul's right. The overprotection of goalkeepers has always been a thing. This, unwritten law. But for me, I can see the side the referee's taking there. Does dive in, doesn't win the ball. So yeah, it's not one that I'm too bothered about. Obviously, it helps when you go on and win the game. But for me, I wasn't too not disappointed, but not surprised that the goal was overturned. But I know I've sat here and moaned about referees not using monitors. That's the one thing that winds me up. So I was actually pleased to see Kevin Friend go over and actually use the monitor for once. Just think it looks much better for the game. So yeah, not too disappointed that it was overturned. I can see why.
Yeah, I just think for me it's I don't know. I mean, I think, Paul, you summed it up perfectly with, if there's no VAR, VAR at times for me seems like it's been brought in to really microscope these things and really try and make a foul out of certain issues. I don't understand it. I mean, I don't really know what you're expecting Mane to do there. I think he's got every right to go for that ball, as is the keeper, was it Masuaku who was next to him? I can't remember. Or was it Ogbonna? I can't remember who was next to him, but I didn't see much wrong with it, if I'm honest, because I think the goalkeeper doesn't actually make any contact with the ball, does he? And the ball is either taken away by, it's tough to tell whether it was defender or Mane, but he's not really got much to do with it. He just kind of collides with him. It's not a nasty collision. It doesn't injure him. So I don't know. I thought it was soft. At first I thought it was going to get ruled out for offside, to be honest, but I was thankfully wrong. Well, near enough thankfully wrong. Let's talk about his goal then. Kieran, I'll stay with you. How important is Diogo Jota for this Liverpool team? Because he just keeps scoring these important goals.
Yeah, I mean, at the minute, he's churning out these goals. These very, very important goals as well, important times in games. Just seems to, when he came on yesterday, just seemed to be like a new life in the team. It seemed like we upped our game about 10-20%. And certainly the ball that comes through from Shankly, the best view of the goal is the one from the camera angle from the Anfield Road end. You see Shankly putting the ball through between the can't remember who it was, his legs, and then you see Jota running onto it, and just the calmness of that finish was sensational. But yeah, for me, every time he's come on, he's done something. Like, not so much, not passing or going off the ball. Actually, goal contributions, which everyone's gonna judge your player on more than anything. So for me, he's been one of our most important players so far this season when he has come onto the pitch.
Paul, do you think, obviously it's a fantastic goal, it's a fantastic pass from Shaqiri, and I think Shaqiri's another one we could maybe ask about his involvement in the first team, but I'll stick with Jota. How should he be now really challenging Salah, Mane and Firmino to be starting games? Should they be looking over their shoulder and going, hang on a minute, is it realistic to think that Jota might actually get one of them out the team?
I think based on performances so far, I think the one who should be worrying most is probably Firmino. And that's not a criticism of Firmino. I just think that he's not been his usual self in a few games. And I think, again, there's a couple of factors in that in terms of, Firmino needs a little bit of space to operate in. And there's been teams sort of just crowding him out with 3 and 4 men around him. That's allowed, the likes of Mane and Salah then to be a little bit more adventurous in the space and things. So, but I think if I was Roberto Firmino, I not necessarily looking over my shoulder, but I think he'd be the one at the moment, based on form, that Jota could potentially come in and replace. For me, Jota, we've mentioned this now for probably the last 2 or 3 weeks at least, that he's going to be massive for us this season. He really isn't. And, I'm not saying he's in the same mould as Salah and Mane, but when Mane and Salah get hold of the ball anywhere in the opposition half, you expect something's going to happen. You expect a dangerous attack. You expect that the opposition are going to panic. And I get that similar feeling with Diogo Jota, that he picks up the ball anywhere in the opposition half, and that he's going to run 20, 30 yards. He's going to get you up the pitch. He's going to create a problem. And it's been far too long where we've had the front three, and then the ones who are coming on sort of to replace those don't have that same sort of vibe. And at the moment, as it stands, Diogo Jota does bring that vibe to the field when he comes on. So for me, I'm excited and I want to see more of him. Would I drop any of the front three at the moment? No, possibly not. But I think he's an excellent substitution to bring on.
It's a very difficult one, isn't it? Because obviously, as you say, we've got an outstanding front three. But when you are playing that well, and as you say, Firmino hasn't been at his best. He does an excellent job for the team, but it comes to a time, I think, where you've got to sort of go, okay, well, there's a player there who's knocking on the door, and one of you have unfortunately got to give way. And Klopp strikes me as that type of man as well, who will say, be ruthless and say, right, he's playing better than you, he's getting in the team. And as I say, I mentioned Shaqiri, and just briefly, he's very rarely done anything wrong in a red shirt for me. I know he's been injured a couple of times, and he had his hair done, didn't he, at one point? Klopp obviously let him have time off for that and called it, I think it was a calf injury or something. That man doesn't get calf injuries with calves like that. But he got his hair done, didn't he? He had a hair transplant, I think. But he's very rarely stepped a bad foot on in a red shirt, and he plays really well. And it's difficult again. Where do you fit him in? It's tough. But another player, we'll move on to another player then. Kieran, he got man of the match. Nat Phillips. What did you make of his showing?
Yeah, mate, deserved man of the match as well, I thought. He was sensational through the game. You obviously saw the team sheet came in, and Gomez, and you obviously, I had my reservations anyway, just to see how we would get on, but I saw he stepped up to the challenge really well, dealt with everything in the air. I think it helped. Obviously, Mikel Antonio was ruled out into this one. We've been out for a couple of weeks, so obviously a bit of a help for us. But what he had to do, he stood up to the plate. He was in there you could argue, better than Gomez in the game for the mistake that Gomez made. But yeah, I couldn't fault the decision to give Nat Phillips man of the match there. He was sensational throughout the game, and one of the reasons why we did get the 3 points in the end.
Paul, what did you make of his performance, mate? Did he deserve man of the match?
Yeah, I think so. Or at least to be up there within the top, the top couple. because I did think there was a couple of others who had really, really good games. Andy Robertson, Trent Alexander-Arnold were two others who you could probably throw in that mix as well. So Wijnaldum, I thought, done a lot of sort of unappreciated work. But in terms of Nat Phillips, I thought it was the perfect game for him. I think Klopp described him as, a monster in the air. And, with West Ham, there is going to be a lot of balls in the air. You also know that you're not going to be under too much pressure defensively, yet they are going to try and hit you on the break. But the majority of the game, we're going to have the ball. They're going to sit behind it and, and they're going to try and frustrate us. So I think it'll be interesting to see in a game where he's under a little bit more pressure and he's got forwards and wingers running at him and stuff like that. But for that game, you can only deal with what's in front of you, and if that ball's going up in the air, then he's going to eat them all day. I have to agree with Kieran that I think if Mikel Antonio was playing, he'd have probably been bullied a little bit more. The lad who played the forward for West Ham, can't even think of his name. What's his name? That's Haller. Yeah, Sebastian Haller. He for me, he's too nice. He doesn't want to bully defenders. He doesn't want to sort of get his shoulders in, get his elbows out, put his backside into people. He doesn't want to bash people about and stuff. It's, I get the impression with Haller, it's a little bit of after you say, and Nat Phillips dealt with that really, really well. As you say, Kieran, he couldn't do anything with the goal. There was obviously a mistake by Joe Gomez, but for somebody coming in and making their Premier League debut, for me, he's got to be very, very happy with it. Yeah,
definitely. I think it's what a moment for him to get, man of the match awarded to you by a Liverpool legend as well, and Jamie Carragher, by the way. It's disappointing that he can't play in midweek against Atalanta because he's not been selected for the Champions League squad. So it's a bit disappointing that he can't kick on his momentum. But let's look on the bright side. At least it gives Reece Williams a chance to. Well, more than likely, maybe not. We'll talk about that in a minute. The one thing I want to ask both of you is how are Liverpool top of the league? Because we just seem to have been off the boil and not at our best at. Maybe at any point this season, I can't think of any moments where I've thought, wow, this team's really at it. Paul, I mean, how are Liverpool top?
Well, it's the old cliche, isn't it? To sign a champions, winning when you're not at your best. And as it stands, we are the champions. So listen, we've had to find different ways to win. Last season we found many ways to win. And, we seem to have carried that on. We're conceding a lot of goals. And I think, obviously Klopp will know that and we'll be working on that. But I think it's just going to be one of those seasons where everybody can beat everybody this year. You see some results that we've seen. You only have to look at our game away at Villa Park to know that, these things can happen. But you look every weekend, there's strange results. And for me, it's going to be whichever team can be the most consistent and possibly find the most ways to grind out results. And at the moment, Liverpool are doing that. And we've just got to keep doing that week in, week out. It's difficult. Obviously, we know that's why retaining titles is such a difficult thing to do. But we've just got to take each game as it comes and keep trying to grind out results.
Kieran, are you at all surprised that Liverpool are top of the league?
I think in terms of performances, a little bit, yeah. But there's obviously, strange circumstances around this season, the quick turnaround and everything that's going on. But in terms of actual numbers, we've won 5 out of 7. The games we haven't won was obviously the Merseyside derby away, a game that we usually draw anyway. So that's not too different. It's just that Aston Villa result, which is just a massive outlier at the minute. If you look at that, with 5 wins and a draw from 7 games, in any other season, that would still be decent enough to be near the top anyway.
Do you think that Aston Villa defeat makes it feel a bit more sour? Do you think if you take that defeat away, and even if it was maybe just a 2-1, do you think people sort of go, oh yeah, Liverpool are playing well?
Yeah, I could probably say that because it's not been done before. I don't think any team's conceded 7 goals, certainly in the Premier League, in a game and gone on to win the league. So I think it's the most goals a team conceded in the league this season. I think in one game. So it's certainly just a massive outlier in that. I mean, you look at our defensive records. Only West Brom have conceded more goals than us this season. So, but obviously, if we're conceding that many and we're top, that means we have to be firing on all cylinders up front. So, yeah, it's a strange one because obviously I'd associate teams being top of the league with having great defences, but yeah, it's just a crazy season.
It is. It's a bit mad, and I think there's plenty more madness to come. Before we move on to Atalanta, let's talk a little bit about the news then. In terms of the Champions League group, obviously we've spoke about this between the three of us before, but Ajax confirmed that they've had 11 positive coronavirus cases ahead of their game tomorrow against Midtjylland. They've applied to UEFA to, obviously the rules state that they're supposed to land the day before. They've applied to UEFA to land on the day of the game. I'm assuming that's going to be granted because we'd have heard by now, I think, if the game was going to be off, if they hadn't travelled. Obviously, they're going to play a very weakened side, and, I mean, obviously this is a massive advantage for Liverpool because Ajax are one of the teams that are potentially going to get through and finish second in the group because see us finishing top, obviously. But is this fair, Paul? That we're allowing them games to go ahead. Should it be postponed and played at a later date? I don't know. What do you think?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I think it's a sign of the times. And I think the question you've got to ask is where do you draw the line then? Because, it's so basically if, how many players you have to then call off a game. If it's a big game and you've got a couple of injuries, do you then start hoping or, trying to find positive corona tests and things like that? So it's difficult because, I wouldn't like it to happen to us. I believe they haven't got, a first team goalkeeper available. I believe both first team goalkeepers, are 2 of the 11 that have been tested positive. And as you say, it's going to be a weakened side. But I think from a Liverpool point of view, we've got to capitalise on that. If, and it's a big if because there's still football games to be played, but if Ajax do lose and Liverpool can secure what would be a massive victory in Bergamo, then the group looks pretty rosy. But for me, we've just got to concentrate on ourselves and do our own job first. Yes, it's harsh on Ajax, but I think where do you draw the line?
Absolutely, I think you've got a point there, mate. And I'm glad you've just said Bergamo. Is that right?
Yeah. So they played all the games in Milan, didn't they? A couple when they were in it last year. But obviously with no fans, they are playing the home games at their home stadium in Bergamo. Right.
Because I wasn't sure whether it was Bergamo, or Bergamo. So I'm glad you've just cleared that up for me, mate. Thank you very much.
Potato, tomato, whatever you want to call it.
Italian experts. Thanks, Paul. So Kieran, obviously, Liverpool have flown out today to Bergamo, thanks to Paul. We've seen that Joel Matip, Naby Keita, Kostas Tsimikas are all on board the flight, obviously leading to speculation that they're all fit and they're all ready to play tomorrow. First of all, how much of a positive is that for Liverpool? And also, do you expect any of them 3 to actually be in the squad tomorrow night?
I think for any Liverpool fan, just to see those names, obviously making the trip over there, I think it's going to, warm the hearts of, all the fans. Certainly Joel Matip, because we know the problems we've had at centre back this season. So gives you a bit of a lift. Whether they play or not, I'm not too sure. I would expect rotation again from the weekend because obviously this game being just a couple of days after West Ham, maybe with an eye on City as well at the weekend. So I do expect to be some rotation, not a lot, because obviously this isn't probably an important game or most important game of the group. I'd say our toughest game, Atalanta away. So, but I don't know. Maybe have a look at Naby Keita in the midfield out of the 3 of them. I wouldn't expect Joel Matip to start as Gomez and Reece Williams would be my centre back pairing. So out those 3, probably Naby Keita maybe most likely, but I don't know. Obviously, the last Champions League game, we rotated the whole front three. We might not do that this time. Not too sure. We may rotate one or two of them. That's what I've just got that in my mind. But we'll have to see what is going to go on the day of the game. So, yeah, it's a tough game. I think a few of the lads will come in, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, so you mentioned there, Kieran, you think this is the toughest game. I think we mentioned this when we done the draw, me and you. And my prediction was that Liverpool would win every single game in the group, bar this one. So what do you think makes it a tough game?
To me, it doesn't matter what competition you're in. I think any away game is just tough. Me and you were speaking before this podcast started about Liverpool's record in Italy. And if you actually go back, I have to thank you for this stat you gave me, Dave, but we've only actually won 3 times in Italy.
Stole me thunder there.
I know. That's a terrific stat, mate, but it does show you it doesn't matter with the great Liverpool teams we've had.
Yeah.
In fact, we've only won there 3 times. Is shows you how tough it really is. So yeah, I would. To me, right now, if you give me a draw, I'm absolutely going to bite your hand off for a point tomorrow night. Obviously, we'll go in with the intention of winning the game. But I do think obviously the got to, I think it was the quarterfinals last season. We were robbed by PSG in the last couple of minutes there. So yeah, for me, that definitely would be the toughest game. A team that scores goals for fun. I think just missed out on 100 league goals last season in Serie A, which is quite a defensive league. So they're just crazy numbers. But I think one hope we do have is they concede a lot as well. So hopefully, if we can get if we can get our pass and goal, we can get our forward players into the game. There is a lot of hope there, but going the other way, if we are conceding goals this season, and the team that loves to score goals for fun will they'll be right up for it. So yeah, if you're asking me now, if you give me a chance to take a point now, yeah, I'll take it. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much. Off we go.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the record in Italy, and I think you mentioned there Atalanta's heartbreak really last season, going out to PSG. That's going to play a big part for them, I think, this year. I think the way they play is going to be interesting. They obviously use that Italian back three with the sort of wing backs, and I think Liverpool if they're going to have any chance of winning this game, they've got to exploit that. Obviously Liverpool love to get forward down the wings anyway with Trent and Robbo. If Robbo plays, it could be Tsimikas by the sounds of things with him travelling. Whether he gets thrown in for 90 minutes, I don't know, obviously. But I think if Liverpool can really utilise the wide areas, they'll stand a decent chance of getting 3 points. I just wonder whether. Do you think, Paul, it might be a psychological thing with these teams now, with going to Italy? And you mentioned before we started about our record in Spain as well. I mean, the last time Liverpool won in Italy was 2012, and that was against Udinese. So, is it a psychological thing going to Italy?
I don't think it's a psychological thing because the players that are playing now, are certainly not the same players that were playing, in 2012. But
would Henderson have been there then? Would Henderson be the only sole survivor?
Yeah, that's it. So there's only possibly one. So.
Yeah.
But we look over the last few years, and obviously we lost in Rome in the semi-final. Although we got through to the final, we've had a couple of trips to Naples. So, they are tough places to go. They're quite hostile crowds, things like that. And I think it's going to be slightly different tomorrow in terms of there are no crowds tomorrow. And for me, we've got to go full strength. We've got to go as full strength as possible. For the best team that's available. And as you say, I do think it's going to be one of the tougher games that we'll face this season. It'll be interesting to see because, I've seen that they were sort of compared with Leeds, and how Leeds have come in and took the Premier League by storm by sort of having no fear and just going forward. And, Atalanta will attack in what is, as you say, Kieran, quite rightly, quite a defensive-minded league. So, for me, that could play into Liverpool's hands to hit on the break if we can, and that's why we've got to go as strong as possible. The opportunities last week against Midtjylland at home to exploit a counter-attack we didn't really take those last week, and I think we've got to have what I would describe as, the main front three to begin with at least, and then if it's not working, you can always look at bringing something else on.
Yeah, team selection is going to be interesting, as you say, because the games are coming thick and fast. So it is going to be certainly interesting, and whether he plays, we've just been talking about Jota, whether he throws him in from the start or not, I don't know. Whether Shaqiri's done enough to get a start over, I don't know. Does he go 4-2-3-1? I think, as I say, Atalanta, this is a tough game. They're the type of team that like to keep the ball and dominate possession. But do you want to say something there, Paul? Were you trying to catch my attention?
No. I just think it could be a bit of a game of tennis, really. It could be you have an attack, we have an attack, and it could be quite end to end. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think Atalanta are certainly susceptible to counter attacks as well. So I don't know whether they might take that into consideration when they play Liverpool and be a bit more conservative. I don't know. For anyone who's listening or watching the podcast, by the way, we figured out that Liverpool have won 3 times in Italy, ever. And we've give you 1. If you can give us the other 2, I mean, should we? I know what we. So if you get the 3 teams, we'll give you the Liverpool chocolate bar. I hope Grace isn't watching. But no, we'll
Grace is Googling.
Yeah,
Grace is Googling as we speak.
Yeah, Grace is firing away trying what is it? But yeah, so if you know the other 2 and you think you're a bit of a smart, pop the answers down in the comments, whatever platform you're on, and let's see how much you know. I think that's Atalanta covered. If you want to see some reaction to the Atalanta game post-match, that'll be on Liverpool TV on Wednesday evening. I believe Grace is going to do that, but it could be one of these 2 beautiful humans with me here as well. We've got 3 beautiful humans in Liverpool to cover the Reds, and we've got beautiful humans to cover the Blues as well. But beautiful you are my favourites, I've got to admit. So let's move on to our hot topic. Let's wrap up with this. Paul, you coined this one earlier on. Is Mohamed Salah a diving cheat? Now, obviously, we touched on this, the penalty instance a little bit earlier on, or you certainly did, Kieran. So, Paul, I'm going to let you take it away here, because this is your creation. So I want you to tell us your thoughts behind it.
Yeah, just there's a bit for me. There's a bit of an agenda going on at the moment, and Mo Salah is the victim of that agenda. It's I look at a certain highlights program that was on Sunday night. I won't even mention Saturday night's highlights program where they dissected it for a good 5-10 minutes. But I look at the Sunday night one, and they normally have a roundup of Saturday's goals, and as every other week, they had a roundup of Saturday's goals. But when it came to Liverpool's game, they allowed an opposition manager's interview to be played over the goals and showed the penalty claim 3 or 4 times. There was no other penalty claim showed. We've had Newcastle had a similar penalty given to them. Nothing was mentioned. Harry Kane was described by Peter Crouch as clever and winning the penalty and all the rest of it, whereas Mo Salah is considered a diving cheat. So I think the presenter of the Saturday night highlight show has got a lot to answer for. I think he's very bitter towards Liverpool, but then again, wouldn't you be if you signed for our rivals for 1 season and won nothing, and the minute you leave, they won the league again? They won the league before he came. He signed. We won the double. He gets off and they win the league again. I think I'd be bitter as well. And there just seems to be an agenda out there that Mo Salah is the only player I've seen on a football pitch who can be wrestled like Hulk Hogan to the ground and get nothing, and people complain about it when he does go down. I even heard people mention about the scream. Well, the scream of appeal came from Jordan Henderson. But they were trying to label that onto Mo Salah. And if it's somebody, and I'll use the word English, they are described in absolute different terms to what Mo Salah is, and they are described as clever, they are described as entitled to go down, they are described as buying the penalty. But when it's Mo Salah, he's a diving cheat, and for me, the agenda out there absolutely stinks.
Okay, so I mean, I'm not going to argue with Harry Kane because that was a blatant dive. And the hypocrisy to call him clever and call Salah the diving cheat when there was more contact in the Salah penalty is laughable. However, if you isolate the Salah incident, Paul, for me, Mohamed Salah doesn't go down naturally. He doesn't.
And the problem is that the referees in this country are incompetent enough to have created that themselves, because you hear these pundits and they say, if you don't go down, you don't get it.
Yeah.
So that basically they are telling the footballers, listen, if you feel contact in the box, if you want a penalty, you've got to go down. Now, I'd also like to throw a curveball in there that not every item of contact, not every piece of contact in the box is a penalty. It's not, because it's a contact sport. But for me, if you're stupid enough to kick through the back of a footballer's leg in the penalty area, then you've got to expect it to be, a penalty is going to be given. And as Kieran put it before, he couldn't have looked more guilty if he was stood in a courtroom. He really couldn't. He turned around, looked at the referee as if to say, are you going to give this? Oh, you're delaying. I'll put my hands up and show you I'm even more guilty. And if he'd have just ran off with the ball and cleared it down the line, the referee then would have had a decision to make. But the referees heard the screams, heard the appeals, and seen him go, yeah, I guess what, mate, I've just kicked them there. You better give them a penalty. So, the fact of the matter is that if you don't go down, you will not get a penalty.
Yeah, I mean, I do understand that. But I totally get the hypocrisy. For me, the Callum Wilson penalty is a bit more clear cut because Andre Gomez really does swing a left foot in the back of his legs. But I just think if that is the other way round, and I think it's a penalty, but I think if it's the other way round, you're a bit annoyed if you get that penalty given against you. But what do you think, Kieran?
Well, I mean, to me, it's all come from this decision this weekend. And for me, it's 100% clear penalty. So they've got no right to, based on this incident, to call him a diving cheat, because he just comes right through the back of him. So Paul's very right in what he says about these days you have to go down. Literally, honestly, there will be managers that will have a go at players if they don't go down in the penalty area. Because that, gives the team a penalty, a chance to score an important goal, possibly. So, managers will probably have a go at players for not going down more than, going down and potentially then not getting a penalty. So, for me, I always, seeing Salah, he always gets, players, wrapped around him, pulling them back, or it just reminds me. I think I want a point to make though. He's a Liverpool player as well, so automatically the rest of the country is going to hate him. So, for me, that doesn't help either. But no, it's all this has come from that one incident. I mean, if it, I could sort of understand it if it was, a blatant dive and a blatant attempt at cheating, but it wasn't. Masuaku comes through the back of him, smashes through the back of him, and it's 100% penalty.
I think as well, Kieran, sorry, mate, I think David Moyes has got form in this, though, hasn't he? Let's be honest, we all remember Luis Suarez running the half of the pitch at Goodison Park to jump in front of him, because he's made these comments before. He's an absolute he's an absolute sort of football genius, as we call him. But he's a genius in the fact that he knows his team were absolutely nowhere near it. They tried to frustrate that. I think they had about 25% possession if they were lucky. He's got a team full of crabs. And, for me, what's the best way? The best way to divert attention, play up to the media circus, play up to the media, the media of, oh, we all hate Liverpool, we do this, blah, blah, blah. And you're going to get the usual comments, oh, look, oh, Liverpool, self-pity, blah, 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 always about them. It's boring. It's absolutely boring. But David Moyes is being clever, and he's gone, I'll play up to that, because all it does, it diverts attention away from a defeat. We've lost 2-1. We've had one shot, I think, or two shots in the whole game. And for me, you know, he's going on about how they're disappointed. Disappointed with what? What chances did they create?
I think that's another point, isn't it? That we touch back on the West Ham game quickly. That just, it was anti-football against football, wasn't it? And you know, he probably looks at it that his team have done the job until the penalty, and then they're probably hoping for the best with the draw. But just going back on the penalty, I mean, as I say, it's a tough one because it does boot him in the back of the leg, so there's more contact. I think we're all in agreement that Harry Kane's laughable going down in the box like that, and the fact that there's pundits calling them clever is a joke. The penalty for me
would they call him clever if he wasn't English though?
Well, this is what I'm going to come on to. I think I don't know whether it's racism. I don't think any of the people on the match of the day.
No, I think it's just unconscious. It's unconscious bias.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think it is a bit of. I don't even think it's race though. It's not race bias. I think it's just nationality. And I think there's more. Are they more worried? Maybe, I don't know, that they're gonna talk to Harry Kane and about Harry Kane and his parents are gonna watch, his family are gonna watch. I don't know. I'm trying to look into it a bit too much there, I think, but obviously Harry Kane's been embroiled in another controversy today where people have been joking about the way he talks and stuff like that. So you know, it's not like it's all about Harry Kane. I don't know. I just think sometimes they maybe try and be a bit controversial, and is Salah an easy target to push controversy on and get people like us talking about it, whereas Harry Kane might just be not as controversial, might not be as much of a talking point. I don't know. I don't know. It's tough.
I think for us, mate, and we've had this conversation about other issues as well. It's the need for to fill these channels 24/7, rolling news channels.
Yeah.
They need content. They need stuff to talk about, and it's not just television channels. It's radio channels as well. You know, I've seen some videos on social media before from a certain radio station that I've had blocked for quite a while because they just talk absolute drivel.
No prizes for guessing who that is.
Well, yeah, exactly, and they create the controversy to generate their content, basically. Yeah. And for me, it's the need to fill these slots of 24/7 rolling news all the time. And it's not just the likes of the penalty instance; it's the VAR, it's the transfer window, which has been specifically designed to create this stupid day where they sit around and have a yellow tie on. It's football in general that has now gone down this need of creating content, not letting it naturally happen and discussing it, but actually falsifying and creating it with the likes of stupid analysis and VAR and over-analysis.
Paul's on his best tonight. Paul is
Sorry,
on his best.
mate, I'm off on one again.
No, I like it, mate. I like it. Because you know what? There's elements to your argument where I think, you know what, you're right. I do think you're right. I might not fully agree with you on the penalty and the issue surrounding the penalty, but you back it up, mate, so I can't argue with it. Kieran, just final thoughts, mate. Is there anything that you want to add to that you haven't already?
No, not particularly. I think the main point is, I just think for me, it's just the fact he plays for Liverpool Football Club. He's automatically public enemy number one these days. So, yeah, I do think that there is an agenda, but it's not something you want these accusations flying around at all. But the sad thing is it's not going to go out the game at all. It's it's only, especially with as Paul's saying, the analysis of everything. The way this we do need these channels and radio stations to talk about things. Just these sorts of things, it's gonna go on and on. Might not be a Liverpool player, might not necessarily be an English player in the future, might play for a different team, but these sort of things are never going to go away.
I think that's the landscape we live in now, isn't it? I mean, look at us, we're doing it, we're talking about it, obviously from a Liverpool perspective, but it generates ideas and opinions and controversy, and at the end of the day, that's going to sell. If they didn't say anything about it, if they all just said, yeah, it was a pen, and moved on, no one would be talking about it, would they? So I don't know. But no, as ever, very interesting hot topic again this week. We've had a few quality ones over the past few weeks. So if you've got any thoughts about that, is Salah's a diving cheat or not, just put them in the comments below and I will pass them on to Paul and he'll be giving you a ring in the week. But no, good stuff. So obviously Liverpool's next game is against Atalanta. And then we've got Manchester City on the weekend. Big game. For more about that and reaction to both the Atalanta game and the Manchester City game, stay tuned to Merseyside Live on Liverpool TV later in the week and the start of next week for the Manchester City game. We'll probably be back next Monday again with discussing everything Manchester City, maybe a bit of Atalanta, and unfortunately talking about an international break that'll be coming up.
Yeah.
Is that right? We are in international break now, aren't we?
After Man City, yeah.
Isn't it just everyone's favourite time of the year?
Oh, yeah.
Be getting a few box sets rolled out over that time. No football. It's just not worth it, is it? We'll talk about more about the international break in next week's show. But as ever, my thanks go to both Kieran and Grayson. Kieran, thank you very much.
No problem, mate. Nice
and of
to see
course,
you.
Paul Jones, when he steps down off his high horse, he'll say thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure as always, mate.
No, it is a pleasure. So yeah, stay tuned to Merseyside Live for more, and we'll see you next week.